Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and guys, I know my past Wooting like Hall effect switch comparison videos weren't the best, and over time it's really become like the same things over and over and over again. I know some of the switches are repetitive with recolors. I definitely understand that, and I've been checking on the communities and of course trying to see like criticism's fine. I don't mind hate. I don't mind criticism. That's completely fine. I'm completely okay with that. I just wanted to learn, right? Like the whole idea for me is every time I go through those posts or comments, I want to learn how can I improve this video to do better. So today's video, I really want to thank Owlabs for this because they sent me out the new Owlabs magnetic switch, the T switch. Now, this thing they pretty much told me was like it was supposed to be really great with very little stem wobble, almost like no stem wobble at all, incredibly smooth. So I'm really curious, like, is this gonna be the thing that actually say beats out the Geon Raw HE? We're gonna have to take a look, but I'm gonna just do a little bit something different with this video from now on and going forward. Is I'm gonna start removing a lot of the other switches that I think are kind of not necessary anymore. Some of the older switches, like the dash, and some of the recolors will be removed, and really focusing on just the popular Hall effect switches. And the reason being is I think it's better for me to focus on the ones that I think I would actually suggest to people to buy. So it's definitely gonna be shorter. I'm gonna try to give you guys a better sound test as well, and of course a better review with a little bit more information of the switches and going into it, and hopefully even giving better visuals. So let's get straight into unboxing the Owlabs T switch and take a look at the switch and see how it is. So please make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get right into this video.
Now, of course, starting off with taking a look at the Owlab T switch. Thank you again to Owlab for sending these out because I was really curious how these T switches sounded and felt, because they were saying that this is a really good switch. Like they said that they put a lot of effort into it, and I was really curious because they're saying, from factory that it was incredibly smooth. Now, they did tell me though, and this is something to keep in mind for you guys that are out there, careful with which plate you're using. It might be tight on certain plates. My FR4 didn't have that issue at all, and neither did my carbon fiber one, but could be different per person. So just keep in mind of that when you're pulling them out. Now, of course, these things look really cool. I like the box. It is really well designed, honestly. But of course, we're going to take a little bit of a closer look. So taking a closer look, where it's either 40 gram or 50 gram, you have two choices. So you can do lighter, a little bit heavier, but it's not really that heavy. It's only got 3.4 millimeter travel though, and it's closed bottom. Now, this switch is supposed to be only 48 cents USD per switch. So well priced. So let's go hear a sound comparison. Now, I hope the sound test really helped you guys with, seeing the differences. Now, the reason why I have the Lekker V2s in here is just because we want to get a bass sound comparison. Now, as you can see here, I'm doing a stem wobble test. The Lekker V2s, at the bottom, the stem wobble is not horrible, but you can see that this switch is shaking, right? Like at the top end, you do get the stem wobble, and when you're doing it around in a circle, you also get that as well. Now, as you can see with the new Owlab Ti switch, you're getting very minimal wobble at the top end, and on the bottom as well, you're getting almost no stem wobble. As you can see here, it's mostly the switch that's moving around, and that's not the stem that's moving around. So I have to admit, Owlabs has done an amazing job in making a really good switch that does not, like the stem wobble isn't there. Now, the Geon Raw was supposed to be like the good of all the Hall effects out there. But as you can see, the Geon Raw on the top end does have a bit of a wobble. It does have a shake there on the top corner. It does move a little bit. Now, of course, once you actually go all the way in and you do a stem wobble test, it's really not bad. You get more vertical than you do get horizontal on the Geon Raw, but there is a bit of stem wobble there. So you will see that the stem does move. And of course, I will do it with the keycaps as well, just to show you guys kind of what I mean. Now, the Black Knights, it does have some wobble on the top end, but once you press it down, it is a box stem, so you aren't going to get that much stem wobble. Now, the Gateron Jade Max is pretty good actually for stem wobble. I say it has a more of vertical than it does the horizontal end, especially when it's pressed down, but you do get some stem wobble on the Jade Maxes. Now, the TTC King of Magnet Palm Switch, probably the best out of all of them, where you're going to get pretty much no stem wobble at the top and at the bottom. But I have to admit, the Owlabs really did a great job with this T switch, where I feel like they really minimized that stem wobble, and it's an impressive thing to see, especially because that's something that a lot of people wanted. And this is not a box stem, right? So a box stem, definitely you get that stem wobble reduced a lot, but this one is just regular, and they did a great job on it. So let me show you with keycaps what I mean. So I'm gonna put keycaps on all of them again and give you guys what I mean in terms of the stem wobble with the keycaps. Now, sorry, I did forget the Jade Gaming in here, but as you can see that, right? The keycap does move around. So that's the thing that people weren't liking, is you getting that wobble there. So you see, with the T switch, you do get a little bit, but it really isn't as heavy, and especially with the keycaps on. And I would say the Geon Raw is a little bit more wobbly than the T switch, and you can see that for like the horizontal portion. I think specifically once you have the keycap on though, and like the shake, it's gonna happen for a lot of the switches, especially if the switch isn't super tight in the plate itself, as you can see with how it's going with all of these here. And that's what I'm noticing the most. The stem wobble for me isn't as crazy, but to be fair, I don't think that stem wobble affects me as much, as long as it's not a crazy wobble. A good example of that would be regular mechanical switches, the Morandi switch. Now, I'm going to remove all the keycaps again because I want to give you the backlighting test. So we're going to go into the backlighting of all of them and take a look to see the difference between each one. So I did add the Gateron Jade Gaming here on the right beside the TTC King of Magnet Palm Switch. And as you can see here, out of all of them, the Geon Raw is going to have the nicest in terms of color accuracy. The Gateron Jade Gaming as well as the Max is good as well for the lighting. The T switch does have a little bit of a color change due to the color of the switch itself. So, and the Black Knights is the worst for backlighting. Now, going into actually reviewing this switch, comparing it to the other ones, the Owlabs T switch did impress me in terms of the overall stem wobble reduction. The switch was incredibly smooth and crisp, and even stock was well done. You don't have to lube the switches if you do like the higher pitch sound. If you do want your switch to sound a little bit, quieter down and a bit deeper, I would say lubing the switches is something that you're going to have to do. I felt that the scratchiness was completely removed as well. You didn't really get a ton of scratch like most Hall effect switches. You do get that. The Geon Raws, of course, you don't really get that either. But if I was to compare this with like the Geon Raw HE, which I feel like is kind of the closest comparison in terms of like a switch that I think people should really look at, the T switch is going to be more on the crisp, higher pitch clack sound, while the Geon Raw is a clack, but a little bit deeper in terms of the sound profile. And from what I was trying out, I was actually quite surprised because I remembered the Geon Raw being a little bit more on the clackier side, but surprisingly enough, it wasn't actually the case. But the T switch is a really crisp sound, so I was really impressed with that crisp sound that was coming through the switch. And I think Owlabs really did put a lot of work. I remember when they reached out to me saying that, you know, they really put in a lot of effort to make sure that this switch was going to be great. If you're looking for a more poppy sound, I'd say go with the TTC King of Magnet Palm. The Black Knights, I'm actually going to stop suggesting anymore. I think these switches aren't that great. The Jade Gaming is going to be another one I would say you should go with. The reason I didn't do like the Lucifer HE was it's just more of like a recolor of the Jade Gaming, which I think is a good one. And I don't do the Jade Pro anymore. I would suggest the Jade Gaming over that just because of the backlighting as well as the stem wobble removal. Now, the V2s, Lekkers, I don't mind them personally, but again, I just put that in the video as just like a point that reference for everyone. I will have the links in the description for the Owlab Ti switch. I think you guys should take a look at this if you are interested. It's 48 USD like cents per switch, which for this kind of switch is great.
Now I'm really curious what your guys' thoughts are on the new Owlabs Ti switch. Now, let me bring this closer up and let me get it focused right in. Perfect. So this is the Owlabs Ti switch. And again, thank you to Owlabs for sending me this out because I was really impressed. This switch has very, very little stem wobble. And as you guys saw in my stem wobble test, this is really impressive, especially when you consider that this is not a box stem switch. And when you consider the popular switch out there, which is the Geon Raw HE, I think truly the Owlabs Ti switch outbeats the Geon Raw HE in terms of pure stem wobble and smoothness. That is my opinion so far from using all these different switches. Now, the cons there are that the coloring is like the light coloring for the backlight is going to be not perfect, right? Compared to the Geon Raw HE, it's definitely not. It's not your deep thocky switch. It is going to be a little bit more on the higher pitch, more towards the clacky side. To be fair, it kind of sounds similar to even the Geon Raw HE. But I would say in terms of just thinking about the stem wobble, this is going to be the switch you should take a look at. And honestly, for 48 cents USD a switch, I think it's worth taking a look at. Honestly, I think this one should be one that you should go take a look. Honestly, all these Holoflex switches are definitely getting much better, which I'm really enjoying, and I'm really curious to see what more comes out. Please leave comments of switches that you notice that maybe I should go check out or you want to hear comparisons with. I will take a look at it. Actually got one that came in just today at the time of this recording, which I will be doing very soon. So please make sure to like and subscribe and go check out the other videos I got because I'll catch you guys next time.